What's going on, everybody? Another week is come and gone, and it is once again time to talk box office numbers. Our first box office numbers of the new year 2023. I know it's been a little while since we've done this. December is pretty crazy for me with work, and I go on vacation at the end of the year, so I'm not always around to do videos, so it tends to die down. I didn't get to do some box office numbers for the past 2 or 3 weeks, so we're finally back. We're starting off strong here in 2023. We got a whole mess of shit to go through, so we are not going to waste any time. We're going to dive right into all this good stuff, and it was a hell of a start to the 2023 season. January is known for being a desolate wasteland, but with the release of a new box office sensation of a horror movie, we were able to maintain a great lead-in going into 2023 now, and managed to maintain over $100 million weekend domestically. That is huge, especially for the first weekend in January. So we're going to dive right into all that good stuff for January 6th to January 8th. We were plus 0.7% over last week. That is great. Usually we take a huge nosedive, but we were able to take in $102 million this weekend. That is a huge win for the start of 2023. So let's dive into our top 10 and see just what was able to put up some juicy numbers to give us this sweet total. Let's go to that chart. To the surprise of absolutely nobody, Avatar: The Way of Water maintains its lead in number one. It has now been number one for 4 weekends consecutively, tying Black Panther for the most weekends consecutively. This one obviously does not get to go over into the 2022 one of our chart that we were looking at with Black Panther, because now this is into 2023. But if we're looking consecutively, it looks like Avatar is going to beat Black Panther. If it manages to get number one next week as well, it will have held it for 5 consecutive weeks. But here in its 4th week, it dropped 33.2%, still bringing in $45 million to bring its total domestic budget to $416 million off of a $460 million budget. This movie is making a shitload of money. We will talk about it more in some later posts that we look at here. But for right now, it is clear to see that this movie is making gargantuan amounts of money. And any person out there, any naysayer that's saying that this movie was going to bomb, does not understand just what James Cameron is capable of. But the real story is in second place here. That is the release of the new horror movie M3GAN. Managed to come out swinging with a huge $30 million opener off of only a $12 million budget. So this movie is making a healthy chunk of change already in the green, already making money, already made back its budget in the first weekend. This is what you want to look at when you're looking at those big movies that manage to make back their budget in one weekend. This is huge. Obviously, the movie didn't cost a lot to make. Hollywood really should be leaning into these like mid-sized budget movies, especially right now in the post-COVID age of trying to get back some nice capital. M3GAN is an absolutely huge win there for Universal. That is a huge win for the beginning of January and for movie theaters and everything. The only thing that sucks is it was a PG-13 horror movie, and anybody who's ever worked at a movie theater knows that PG-13 horror movies are the absolute worst shit in the world to work, simply because teenagers are fucking assholes. And they came out in droves today to prove just how big of an asshole they can be. In third place is Puss in Boots: The Last Wish in its 3rd week, dropping 22%, taking in $13 million to bring its total domestic haul to $87 million off of a $90 million budget. This movie is close to breaking its even point now. It probably will over this weekend. I'm sure worldwide it's already comfortably printing money. This is a movie that I thought was going to cruise through at this point. I thought it would have much higher domestic earnings right now, especially given the holiday weekend, but it just goes to show that Avatar was the movie for families to go to. I guess Puss in Boots might have been a scenario where if you had a family of young kids, teenagers, and adults, that you would want to see something that everybody could enjoy, whereas Puss in Boots might have been something that they thought only the kids could enjoy. I actually love the movie. I think it's also a movie that any age bracket can enjoy. It's a lot of fun, way better than the first one. So hopefully this movie just continues to keep making money over the next few weeks so we can continue to make that budget back. In 4th place is the movie A Man Called Otto. It is increased its theater count, which is why we see in its 2nd week it has positive 7,365%. It is expanded into a whole bunch more theaters this weekend. Next weekend, it will actually be expanding into wide release, so we might see this. It'll probably dip a little bit because I doubt it's going to go positive more off of 7,000%, but we might see it. It's possible. It depends on how well it does over the next weekend. It takes in $4.2 million to bring its total domestic haul to $4.285 million off of a $50 million budget. This movie's got a ways to go still to make its budget back. Obviously, though, it hasn't hasn't been released in wide release yet, so we don't know exactly what it's going to do. It's possible this movie might put up some good numbers next week, and then coupled with its worldwide gross, might be able to make that budget back. And rounding out the top 5 is Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, still holding strong in the top 5 in its 9th week of release, dropping 34%, taking in $3.3 million to bring its total domestic haul to $445 million off of a $250 million budget. We take a look here at the back 5. Whitney Houston, I Want to Dance with Somebody, in its 3rd week, drops 38.9%, taking in $2.4 million, bringing its total domestic haul to 19 off of a $50 million budget. This movie still has a little bit of a ways to make its budget back, at least here domestically. I'm sure worldwide it's probably either crossed it or getting close to crossing it. This is a movie that they were hoping to catch lightning in a bottle, same way that they did with Bohemian Rhapsody. But I guess most of the people, after seeing Bohemian Rhapsody, realized that that movie is fucking terrible and that this movie would probably just follow suit. It is a tired cliche of a movie. It is every cliche you ever thought would be rolled up into a biopic, just thrown into one. It is an absolutely just shim sham of a movie and just an absolute disrespect to the legacy of Whitney Houston. But hey, that's only my take. In 7th place is The Whale in its 5th week, up 9.4% over last week. This movie expanding into more wider of release, same as A Man Called Otto. This movie is just steadily making money. It brought in $1.5 million to bring its total domestic haul to $8 million off of a $3 million budget. Leave it to A24 to just have that fucking market cornered for those small budget movies that know how to capitalize on audience investment and turn itself a little bit of profit. In number 8 place is Babylon in its 3rd week, dropping 45.2%. This movie is sinking fast. It brought in only $1.4 million to bring its total domestic haul to $13 million off of an $80 million budget. That is fucking just, it's such a shame to see this movie bombing so badly. I don't think it deserves to bomb as badly. I think this was a movie that has the misfortune of being released at the wrong time. I don't think this was a holiday movie for people. I think it's too raunchy of a one. I get that they were probably trying to capitalize on the Wolf of Wall Street level, which also was released around Christmas, but it just, for whatever reason, people just aren't responding to it in the same way that they did the Wolf of Wall Street. I actually think it's a pretty decent movie. I enjoyed this movie a lot, so it's a shame to see it bomb so hard. But again, that $80 million budget, just too much of a price tag for a movie like that to overcome. So unfortunately, it's probably going to join the list as one of the last big box office bombs of 2022. In 9th place is Violent Night, still hanging strong in the top 10 in its 6th week, dropping 65%, taking in $741,000, bringing its total domestic haul to $49 million off of a $20 million budget. This movie continues to comfortably make money. And then rounding out the top 10, also still hanging strong in the top 10, is The Menu in its 8th week of release, dropping 35.2%, taking in $713,000 to bring its total domestic haul to $37 million off of a $30 million budget. Now, as always, we like to take a look at our top 10 worldwide and domestic. We're going to take a look at 4 charts here. We're going to look at our top 10 worldwide and our top 10 domestic for 2022, take our last looks at those. We're actually going to continue to look at them simply because there are 2 movies in those top 10s that are still in theaters, still continuing to make money. So we will chart them along with that. But then we're also going to start our 2023 charts for worldwide and domestic. Now, obviously, there's only going to be 1 movie on that, and anybody who's been following along knows what that movie is going to be, but we got to start the chart here. We're going to follow along and we're going to see how stuff starts leveling out onto there and how stuff gets kicked off. That is the fun of following these box office numbers. But we will start with our 2022 ones. As always, we're going to go to the chart here and take a look at our top 10 worldwide for the year of 2022. Now, if we take a look here, we'll start at the bottom and work our way up because we have a very big win here in the top 10 worldwide. Top Gun finally got its shake up, but starting all the way at the bottom, Moon Man in the 10th spot with 460, Watergate Bridge with 626 million, Thor Love and Thunder with 760 million, The Batman with 770 million, Black Panther Wakanda Forever, one of the 2 movies that is still in theaters currently, that's why you see that asterisk next to the 827 million, Minions The Rise of Gru at 938 million, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness with 955 million, Jurassic World in the 3rd seed with $1.003 billion, only the 3rd movie since the pandemic to gross over $1 billion. Top Gun Maverick finally gets knocked out of the 1st spot. It spent the better part of the year in number 1, finally gets knocked down to number 2 right at the end of the year. It was only the 2nd movie since the pandemic to gross $1 billion. It sits comfortably at number 2 with $1.4 billion. And finally, the newest movie to join the $1 billion club, only the 4th movie since the pandemic to do it, is Avatar: The Way of Water, currently sitting at $1.7 billion. And you see the asterisk next to that movie as this movie is still in theaters and still continuing to make money. So we will chart along with this chart as the Avatar and Black Panther continue to still make money, and we see finally where their final tallies are. We'll probably be following this chart for a hot minute thanks to Avatar, because I'm sure this movie is going to continue to make money. It seems all but certain at this point that this movie is going to make $2 billion. I don't think it's going to reach the level of the first Avatar or Avengers or maybe even Star Wars. I think The Force Awakens is the one that's that high, but I think it is going to comfortably become one of the $2 billion boys, which is an absolute win in and of itself for James Cameron, and thus proving that he had all the right moves in the world to bank on these Avatar sequels. They're going to make a gargantuan amount of money for James Cameron, for the people in this movie, for the studio, for everything. This was a wild gamble to even see if people cared, and they have responded in kind. Yes, they do. And now we'll take a look at our top 10 domestic for 2022. This is another one that we'll continue to follow because, again, there are 2 movies that are still in theaters racking up the money. But we take a look here now at the chart. In the 10th seed is Black Adam with $168 million. You got Sonic the Hedgehog 2 with $190. Thor Love and Thunder with $343. The Batman with $369. The Minions Rise of Gru at $369 as well. Jurassic World Dominion with $376. Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at $411. Black Panther Wakanda Forever in the 3rd seed with $445 million. You see the asterisk next to that because it's still raking in money. Avatar The Way of Water in number 2 here. Didn't have enough yet to top Top Gun Maverick, but maybe we'll see if it does have it in the next few weeks to take that over to become number 1 as well. But it holds comfortably right now in number 2 with $516 million. You see the asterisk next to that because it's still in theaters making gargantuan amounts of money. But Top Gun Maverick is still the top dog on the block as far as the domestic chart goes. Avatar has a ways to go still if it wants to beat that one. Top Gun sits at the heap with $718 million. So we finished the year. I'm shocked to see that Sonic the Hedgehog 2 domestically ends up in the top 10. I'm shocked to see that Black Adam still held strong at number 10. Just goes to show that you never know what's going to be a sure thing or not. I thought Puss in Boots would end up on this list. It did not have the mustard. So it's always fun to watch and see just what ends up happening with these box office predictions, because you end up being wrong more often than you're right. And now we'll take a look at our top 10 worldwide for 2023 and our domestic worldwide for 2023. Now, obviously, both of these charts are the same. There's only one movie on there. So let's take a look and just see what that movie is. So for top 10 worldwide right now, we have one movie on there, and it is M3GAN, sitting strong at number 1. Enjoy that while you can, M3GAN, because you're probably only going to have a few months in the top 10 to enjoy yourself. But it sits right now with number 1 with $45 million for an opening weekend worldwide. Not bad for a movie that only cost $12 million to make. And then we take a look domestically, where it still is number 1 with $30 million. Again, not a bad haul for only a $12 million movie. Now, another chart that we had been following along with, but we stopped because Top Gun just didn't have the mustard to break into the top 10, was the highest grossing worldwide movies of all time. Now, Top Gun wasn't able to do it. It still held on just outside, but we are going to take a look now at a movie that was able to. That's English. Yeah, you know how to speak English. That was able to do it, and that is obviously Avatar The Way of Water. It has currently just passed Jurassic World to become, I believe it is now the 6th highest grossing movie of all time. It has only in its sights left a Spider-Man, 2 Avengers movies, Star Wars, Titanic, and Avatar in its way to being the highest grossing movie of all time. Does it have it in it? I don't think so. I think it'll pass Spider-Man No Way Home. I think it'll pass Avengers Infinity War. I think it'll pass Star Wars The Force Awakens. But passing Titanic and then Endgame and the first Avatar is a whole another ball game. There is a lot still to go in that regard. But let's take a look at the chart here and just see where this movie is lying right now. In the 10th seed is the Avengers movie with $1.5 billion. The Lion King 2019, I can't believe that this movie is one of the 10 highest grossing movies of all time. Like one of the most garbage movies I've ever seen, but oh my god, whatever. It sits at number 9 with $1.6 billion. Jurassic World sits at $1.671 billion. Avatar The Way of Water right ahead of that right now at $1.7 billion. It has in its sights Spider-Man No Way Home at $1.9, and then it is just a little bit of a climb to pass over Avengers Infinity War at $2 billion, Star Wars The Force Awakens at $2.068 billion, Titanic in the 3rd seed with $2.1 Quite possible it could pass all those movies, but it has a huge, it has to make another $1 billion if it wants to pass Avengers Endgame in the second spot with 2.7, and then an even higher climb if it wants to pass the original Avatar, which sits at 2.9, almost $3 billion. That is absurd. Also remember that Avengers Endgame and Avatar have both had re-releases in parts of the world, so obviously those totals are even higher than what their original one was, but it's safe to say that Avatar: The Way of Water still has its work cut out for it if it wants to be number one. I think it's going to end up settling in third place, maybe fourth, depending on like how much steam it has left in the tank, but I think it's a safe assumption to say that it's going to end up passing Star Wars: The Force Awakens. One chart for 2022 we want to take a look at, its finality, is the 2022 blockbuster status chart. That is the start, I can't speak today. That is the chart of all the movies for 2022 that managed to hit blockbuster status. That is movies domestically that grossed over $100 million. This year we had 17 movies that were able to cut the mustard and cross over the 100 million threshold. We're going to take a look at them now. We're going to go right here to the chart. Looking at it from the bottom, you got Bullet Train, Smile, The Lost City, Lightyear, Nope, Uncharted, Elvis, Black Adam, Sonic the Hedgehog 2, Thor: Love and Thunder, Minions: Rise of Gru, The Batman, Jurassic World Dominion, Doctor Strange, Black Panther: Wakanda Forever, Avatar: The Way of Water, and Top Gun: Maverick. That is a huge year, especially considering what we've been going through with 2020 and 2021. So it is nice to finally get back to some semblance of normalcy where we see 17 movies were able to hit over the $100 million mark. The question now will be looking at what we'll be able to do it for 2023. I'm going to do a companion video later in the week where we're going to look at everything for 2023, and I'm going to make some bold predictions, and we're going to guess and see if we can figure out just some of what movies are going to cross over 100 million, what movies are going to make huge amounts of money, what I think will be the top 10 grossing movies domestically and worldwide, and we're going to take a look at all that good stuff, but that will come later down the line. Now we have one last chart to look at before we call it a day here, and that is the movies that held number one for more than 1 week consecutively in 2022. We put the chart to bed, but we have one last addition to the list, and that is Avatar: The Way of Water. By the end of 2022, that movie was able to join the Hat Trick Boys and become the only movie that wasn't a superhero movie that was able to hold on to the number one box office. I just can't fucking talk today. The number one spot in the box office for 3 weeks gunning. Let's take a look here at the chart for the finality of 2022. We had a movie was able to hold it consecutively in every month of the year. That is huge. Spider-Man: No Way Home started us off in January with the 21st and the 28th. Uncharted had February with February 18th and the 25th. The Batman was the first of the Hat Trick Boys to do it, March 4th, March 11th, and March 18th. The Bad Guys kept us going in April with April 22nd and 29th. Doctor Strange joined the Hat Trick Boys with May 6th, May 13th, and May 20th. Top Gun owned Memorial Day weekend with May 27th and June 3rd. Jurassic World staked June with June 10th and June 17th. Thor: Love and Thunder kept July chugging along with July 8th and July 15th. Bullet Train kept the summer movie alive in August with August 5th and August 12th. Smile kicked off the Halloween season with September 30th and October 7th. Black Adam joined the Hat Trick Boys as the only of the non-Marvel superhero movies to become a Hat Trick Boy with October 21st, the 28th, and November 4th. Black Panther owned the record for the year, saying, I'll join the Hat Trick Boys, but I'm going to do you all one better, owning November 11th, the 18th, the 25th, the 2nd, and the 9th, absolutely decimating everybody else. And then Avatar said, hold my water, I'm not going to be the only one not joining this party this year. And it became the only superhero movie to join the Hat Trick Boys. It owned the 16th, the 23rd, the 30th, and if we want to keep that party going, it now joined this weekend of January 6th. So it's going 4 weeks gunning. It might be able to pass Black Panther as far as the first movie to hold it for 6 consecutive weekends. It doesn't have much in the way of stopping it. This upcoming weekend is the biggest movie, I think, is the Gerard Butler movie Plane, which I just don't see having the mustard to cut it. And then I don't think there's anything else until February when we get to Ant-Man and Magic Mike. So I think it's safe to say that Avatar is just going to run roughshed through the rest of January into February. So it as possible, we look at this movie holding number one consecutively for 7 weekends. We'd have to go into our Box Office Mojo and look at years past to see how long it's been since a movie's done that, but I'm sure it's been a hot minute. Maybe Spider-Man, but I don't think Spider-Man held consecutively. I think it lost a weekend or two there along the way, but we'll have to take a look. That'll be for later videos that we'll go and we'll take a look there. And then one last thing to take a look at before we leave. Back a few months at the beginning of December, I did my most anticipated movies for the month of December. Well, December has come and gone, so it is now time to rank up the movies from December that I did get to see. And I did not see a lot, as I said before. Work is very crazy at the theater around the holidays. This is the time you guys all want to come and see, so I don't get to watch as much because I'm working a lot. And then I also go away on vacation, and while I'm on vacation, I don't always get to take in a movie. I'm always off doing a whole bunch of stuff in December, so I don't get to see as much as I want to, but I did get to see pretty much all of the big movies that came out in theaters that I wanted to see, so that we'll basically be able to rank up those ones. So we're going to take a look here at the chart. On the left-hand side is all the movies that I had in the most anticipated. From bottom to top, we'll take a look. My least anticipated was the Night at the Museum movie, then the movie Woman Talking, then I Want to Dance with Somebody, then Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, then The Whale, then Empire of Light, then Emancipation, then Violent Night, then Babylon, and I said my favorite movie for the month would be Avatar: The Way of Water. If we take a look on the right-hand side, I had my top two correct. I correctly predicted that Avatar would be my favorite movie for the month. It absolutely was. I correctly predicted that Babylon would be right behind it. It absolutely was. And then where we switch up was Puss in Boots and Violent Night. Puss in Boots ended up surprising me a lot. This movie was a hell of a lot of fun. I ended up absolutely loving it. I loved the gorgeous visuals, and it ended up being a whole lot of fun. So it took the number 3rd seed. Violent Night, also a lot of fun. It was the number 3 spot until I saw Puss in Boots, and Puss in Boots managed to overtake it. But Violent Night was a hell of a lot of fun as well. And then we got our bottom 2 ones, at least theatrically, pretty much on point there. The Whale, I knew was going to be a hell of a performance from Brendan Fraser, but I figured the movie might leave a little bit more for me to be desired. And that exactly was the case. It was a movie I will never watch again, but Brendan Fraser was absolutely magnetic in it. He is just a one-of-a-kind actor, and I'm so happy to see him back. And I correctly predicted that the worst live-action theatrical experience that I would say would be I Want to Dance with Somebody, and it absolutely fucking was. But that will do it for all of us here for this weekend at the charts. It was a wild way to kick off 2023. We are in for quite a season. We are in for what I am expecting to be the closest back to 2019 that we've been since the pandemic. It is going to be a wild ride of a year. Stay tuned here for some more videos where we're going to dive into all the stuff coming out in 2023. Just stay tuned for some others, just really solid stuff. I still have to do my January most anticipated. We're going to go through, it's the beginning of January, so we're going to run through every movie in my collection so that I'm able to chart through and see just what I add title-wise for the next year. We got a whole bunch of good stuff coming this year, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you are not subscribed. Hit that like button on this video so we can keep charting along and partying here. And until next time, you have been you, I have been me. These are the movies that we love so much, and until next time, adventure on.